In an interview with Roger Deakins, cinematographer who has worked with Denis on Blade Runner and other movies like Sicario, Denis mentions something quite worrying. Can a second Dune movie be filmed? Can they ensure the safety of the crew? In this episode, these are some of the things we are going to take a look at. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe and click the bell so that you can be first to be notified of new videos. Now that that is out the way, let's begin.
Do you think after Dune you might do something that's not science fiction?
I deeply love science fiction, but frankly, I'm definitely I'm dreaming of doing. It will be healthy for me to do something small, where I'm not having to dream about the design of a car, the design of a wallet or a gun for months before shooting it, where I can just embrace reality for what it is. That I would love to go back there.
The worry isn't necessarily Denis' commitment to the Dune project, but the studio and whether or not they will still believe a second part of the Dune film is viable under the current industry climate, still suffering from the after effects of the pandemic. Will less practical effects be used and more CGI or computer-generated imagery be used as a result, as a way to tackle the pandemic problem? Will this make Denis' second Dune film look and feel different? Would he even want to work on such a project without having total creative freedom due to the pandemic? These are all genuine questions and concerns affecting the Dune production and the studios. The issue here is that Denis didn't specify what he meant by saying after Dune. As he is still in the process of editing Dune Part 1, does he mean after the first part of Dune or the second part of Dune when he says that he wants to make a smaller movie after Dune? Is he simply talking about Dune Part 1, or does he mean after he's finished filming both Dune Part 1 and 2, does he want to work on a smaller movie? With what we know about Dune Part 2, that it will deal with the last portion of the Dune book, the scale is definitely not a small film. Greg Fraser, cinematographer for Dune, says that Dune Part 1 will be a standalone movie.
I know the plan is to do a two-part. Is the scale of this one pretty large, pretty vast, or is it kind of like a setup for the second half of the story?
It's a fully formed story in itself. It's a fully standalone epic film that people will get a lot out of when they see it, and it's a standalone film, they'll get a lot out of it.
If Greg Fraser says this, that means that this view is synonymous with Denis Villeneuve. Greg of course worked closely with Denis Villeneuve on Dune, so it's just as good as Denis Villeneuve saying this himself. And after Denis saying that Dune Part 1 will be a complete film in itself, separate and standalone, could this mean that we may not even get to see a second part to Dune? If we read between the lines, we can interpret his words to be saying, the Dune I've just filmed works as a standalone film without having to make a second part. If that is the case, this new Dune film may never end up being a complete adaptation and telling of the first Dune book. There would have been more confidence had they been contractually obliged to make both Dune films, which doesn't seem to be the case, or if they were filming Dune Part 1 and 2 simultaneously or back to back. But that's not happened. They've only filmed Dune Part 1 and that's it. If we don't get a Dune Part 2, there are so many things we're not going to see. We're not going to see proper full sandworms. We're not going to see the sandworms being ridden. We're not going to see Paul riding the sandworm for the first time. There will be many scenes we don't get to see if Dune Part 2 isn't made, and it would be awful, it would be a travesty if this isn't a complete adaptation. And the idea of making a smaller film after Dune anyway is not something we really want to hear as Dune fans, because we want to see more Dune films after Dune Part 1. We want to see Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune. We want it to keep going, and hopefully, if Denis does it right, we want to see him attached to it. Now, obviously, he has been attached to the pilot episode of the Dune The Sisterhood series, and maybe that would mean he would create more episodes if it went well. But again, it seems like he's almost done with Dune. Like he doesn't want to do anything more with Dune after he's finished Dune Part 1 and 2. Now, of course, these are ambitious projects, so I can understand why he would say that he wants to work on a smaller film, especially taking on Dune right after taking on Blade Runner 2049.
And I would have not been able to do Dune before Blade Runner. I was ready. When I did Blade Runner, I thought I was ready to do it because I had done Arrival just before and Sicario. Myself, I would not be able. Some people are able to do it. Me, I'm not. I would not be able to go from making my first feature to making Blade Runner my second feature. I'll be dead right now.
So it's understandable that he's kind of reached his creative peak, and it seems like the things he's done with Dune, he doesn't want to do anymore, and he just wants to take a moment to breathe and relax and gather his thoughts. And he's mentioned this before. He said that when he finishes a film, he likes to rest and absorb it and let it simmer.
It takes a time before being able to digest, to make peace with for me, when I make a movie, there's a lot of deep joy, pain, anger linked with the process. It takes me years before I'm able to watch it again and to see the movie for what it is truly.
He wants to creatively rest so that he can reflect on his work and change and improve and adjust. So I can understand where he's coming from there. But it does sound a little worrying when he says after Dune he wants to make a smaller movie. Because as far as we're concerned, he's only filmed Dune Part 1. Unless he's hiding the fact that he's filmed Dune Part 1 and 2 and he's completed it in that regard. But there has been no indication, not in the press, not from Dune production or Denis Villeneuve himself, that Dune Part 2 has been filmed. In Empire magazine, in the interview with Denis Villeneuve, the language is also slightly worrying. It reads, if this does work for mass audiences, Villeneuve hopes to return to tell the rest of Paul Atreides' story. Whereas this film is about a boy losing his innocence and adapting to a new culture, the sequel would see him at full potential as a leader, because the threat posed by the Harkonnens and the dangers of the sands of Dune will not be entirely diffused here. But if it all goes wrong, at least he got to visit Arrakis once. If the story closes here, at least Villeneuve has made his teenage self happy. Now this just could be COVID caution, or it could mean that Part 2 isn't as secure as we think. Part 2 may never happen at all. So what do you guys think of this information? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and click the bell so that you can be first to be notified of new videos. If you like this channel, you can support me on Patreon, where you'll get exclusive content and access to new material ahead of time. Thank you to my Patreons for your continued support, it means a lot. With your help, I can make more videos. You can join as a channel member now, where you can receive exclusive access to special content and more. Thank you, and until next time, see you soon.